Chromaphone, wow, wow. Give me them nice bright sounds. All right, so this is Kevin from Audio Digital. I'm here with a review of Chromaphone 2. They made a sequel. I reviewed Chromaphone 1, but in case you're not familiar with it, I'll give you a quick synopsis of what we're dealing with here. This is a physical modeling synth. So instead of using samples or instead of using single cycle waveforms or what are other techniques that are used in other forms of synthesis, this uses algorithms that simulate the way actual objects vibrate when struck or when bowed and so forth. So you get really realistic sounds. You don't have like the sample crossings when you're trying to get dynamics with samples and so forth. You get really realistic sounds, and it's the sort of thing that will stand out in a mix. It sounds like a little bit more like a recorded instrument or an acoustic instrument or whatever, as opposed to being electronic. So it can bring some life to your recordings. And there's a lot of dynamics in these guys. I like the sound of this thing. These are like supposed to be kind of keyboard sounds. One thing I'll bring up about this synth that you should know is that it eats CPUs for breakfast. It is one of the most CPU hungry synths I've ever encountered. And that's the price you pay for the great sound quality. This is capable of some really, really nice sounding high frequencies. Now you hear that crunch? That's because I tried to bend that note, which brings me to my next point. You can bend notes now. The original Chromaphone didn't have pitch bend, and I'm starting to see why, because when I bend a note, it uses up a lot of CPU, depending on what resonators you're using and so forth. But that can be a danger, so you want to be careful with that. You might want to be careful not to use it if you're doing live or something like that, unless you have a super beefy CPU. I'm running an AMD, so each individual core is not quite as powerful as if I was running an Intel chip. So if you wanted to use this live, I'd recommend like a i7, probably on a desktop or something type machine, because this is really hungry. It's easy to overload your CPU with this guy. But on the flip side, you get some sounds that are hard to get other places. So let's see. Let's listen to the mallets here. So nice dynamics there. And one thing I want to bring out as far as the difference between the new Chromaphone and the old Chromaphone, let's listen to the same preset in the old one here. And then switch to new. Old. So you can hear a difference there. It seems a little bit brighter, maybe a little bit louder. Seems stereo too. So I'm thinking the new resonators are capable of stereo, whereas the old ones I think were mono, and to get stereo you had to use effects. Anyway, so I think there is a little bit of a difference with the resonators, or at least some of them, which is a good thing. I think they've improved the resonators, but you might not get the exact same sound if you're using the same name in the factory presets. But as an interesting side note, if you bought an additional sound pack, those seem to sound exactly the same when I've tried these on both synthesizers here on both versions, they seem to sound exactly the same. I couldn't really tell any difference at all. So you won't have any problems there if you're upgrading. And I'm assuming they're using an old version of the resonators in Chromaphone 2 when you open up one of their old banks. So a few of the other differences between the two, we have a play view now that gives you Unison Mode, so that's kind of cool. And you have vibrato over here instead of it used to be over here. Now you have also an arpeggiator. Let me open something that's a little bit more conducive to, where's my bells? Bells, here we go. Switch. So turn on this arpeggiator. So it's pretty cool. You can do patterns if I wanted to skip a few notes in there. So it's very handy and pretty robust for a built-in synth. And also we now have an effects section with an EQ, a compressor. We have a few more options here for our two effects. And then we have a dedicated reverb that now we can edit. Before we just had this one reverb knob, and now we can choose from some different sizes and some other functions. So that's pretty good. A nice set of new features. One other thing I forgot to mention was that there is a new membrane. I'm sorry, not membrane. A new drum head resonator. You can just. That's one cool thing about Chromaphone. You can just kind of swap a different resonator in a current patch and get a significantly different sound. And that's always fun. So you can make your own sounds in this, and because the interface here is not very hard to deal with, it's pretty easy to go in and start messing with things. And the more you mess with it, the more you're going to figure it out and be able to do your own fun and creative things with it. I found it pretty easy to kind of anticipate what kind of results I'm going to get. But the cool thing is you have these two resonators, and then you have this coupling function that basically, if you think of like a guitar, there's the guitar string, and then there's the body, the wooden body of the guitar, and they affect the sound. Both of them come together to make the whole sound. So that's kind of what this is. When you couple these together, you get a different type of sound than if they're separated. So it's really fun. So I do recommend this, especially if you want something that sounds different, something that will cut through the mix, something that will make your music stand out a bit, something that will breathe some life because of the dynamics in the sounds. They're very dynamic sounds when you're using different velocities. And if you do electronic music, sometimes you want some more life into things because you get some samples that are pretty flat and pretty regular, and it kind of takes you out of that kind of monochromatic, universe into something where it sounds like someone's actually sitting down hitting something with a stick. So anyway, that's my review of Chromaphone. I recommend it. I believe it's like $150. It might be still on sale right now. And I recommend it for especially if you enjoy some things that sound a bit different and you like experimenting. So thanks for checking out this review. I hope you enjoyed it. And please enjoy being creative, guys. Thank you.